Two, I'm excited but nervous, but also not excited. So I'm all of them.
I think just with the virus as a whole, that's my only concern, catching it. But other than that, as long as I follow the rules, hopefully I can stay safe.
Makes you a little bit nervous, but it's good to get back into the routine.
I'm expecting school to close down within like the first month.
Welcome back to Power Play. Will our kids be all right? That's the question on everyone's minds as students head back to class across the country, including mine. Here's Ontario's Education Minister today, Stephen Lecce. Check this out.
As students begin to get back to class, I want to thank them for inspiring their province. I want to express gratitude to our frontline workers, our teachers and principals and administrators for committing themselves to the safety of our kids. And thanks to Ontario's moms and dads for their sacrifice along the way. We are truly in this together, facing that invisible threat. But our collective resolve and our continued actions will ensure we succeed to ensure our kids learn and that our schools are safe.
So today did mark the oft-dreaded end of summer vacation for millions of students who found themselves dragging their heels back into classrooms. But this year, of course, the return comes amidst the ongoing spread of the coronavirus, COVID-19, the pandemic. And as schools are linking cases to the virus are continuing to emerge in provinces like Quebec. Meantime, in Ontario, Harvey Bischof is an English teacher from the Durham region and the president of the Ontario Secondary Schools Teachers Federation. He's concerned about the safety protocols that the Ontario government has put in place. He joins us from Toronto. Mr. Bischof, first of all, good to have you back on the program. Do you believe it's safe for kids to go back to public schools today?
I think the level of risk overall for the system and the students and the educators in it is higher than it ought to be, and frankly, just too high.
The education minister says, look, he presented all the unions and others with a proposal 2 weeks ago on class sizes, opting out of things like e-learning. He said there was no response for 2 weeks and that this is why we're in this position. He's kind of throwing it back on you. What's your response?
I'm sorry, I did not hear him say that. If he said that, that's flatly untrue. We have been pleading with the Ministry of Education since the end of March at a time when it was unclear when schools would reopen, but we knew they would. We knew it would be one of the most complex projects this province has ever undertaken to reopen schools in a pandemic. We pleaded with them to consult with us. They have simply refused time and again.
But, sir, sorry, just to be clear, haven't you guys been negotiating quietly on some of these fundamental issues for the past 2 weeks?
No, you would think we have, but there's been no negotiations. There's been no consultation. They cannot point to one single aspect of the return to school plan that bears our imprint. In not one single case did they present us with, several options and say, which do you think is best and take our advice? Not one case.
The Premier Ford said today he's provided $1.3 billion for schools, 625 more public health nurses, 1,300 more cleaning staff, $246 million to hire more staff, 37 million pieces of PPE to school boards across the province. He says you've got the stuff you need. What else?
So first of all, that number is quite significantly inflated, but frankly, that's getting into a kind of a level of detail that may not be helpful. Here's what they haven't done. They haven't reduced class size in order to allow for physical distancing, which is required in every other public space in the province. They have no standards for when it comes to the quality of ventilation, even though there are well-respected industry-wide standards published for the return to school during a pandemic. They're not following their own Public Service Health and Safety Association guidance around transportation. So you'll have fully loaded buses. With our youngest students, there'll be 3 to a seat. They're not following appropriate masking advice, and they have cohorts of 100 students, which frankly is a meaningless number when it's that many. When you trace those contacts, in fact, that expands, more or less infinitely.
But Harvey Bischof, they're saying they're listening to public health. Meantime, you've got your union and 3 others, I think, going to the Labour Board because you're concerned about the safety of people. And a lot of folks, even the Premier, saying you're not being reasonable. Families are going through tremendous stress, both financially and just the psychology of worried about their kids. And they're saying, get the kids in school. Don't delay school again. Don't put your teachers and the union issues before the kids. What do you say to people who are saying, stop the fighting and get the kids in school?
I say this. On March the 12th, I sent a letter to the minister pleading with him to work with us on this, and they've ignored us at every turn, including letters that I sent during the summer that he didn't even respond to. And I understand, I'm a parent, I get that level of anxiety, I understand it. But when he says he's listening to public health, the fact is what was recommended by sick kids, which is reducing class size so that physical distancing could be maintained. It was deemed the priority strategy in the sick kids report. They're not doing that in the vast majority of our schools. There are multiple, if this was somehow a squabble between the unions and the government, he might have a point. Multiple epidemiologists, infectious disease experts, multiple parent groups, the Ontario's Principal Council, all have significant concerns and criticisms with this return to school plan.
Right, but the chief public health officer, he says supports him. Just in the last 10 seconds I've got, is there any chance that your Labour action could shut down the schools again and delay kids going to school again? Is there any chance that schools could shut down again?
I don't see it on the basis of our Labour Board action. Potentially if there's spread of disease, yes, that under those circumstances it could again, and that's exactly the concern we have.
Harvey Bischof, I appreciate it. Lots of anxiety for parents all across the country and in your province as well. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Evan.